We're good? Okay. Well, good afternoon. My name is Rob Coyle. I'm the Director of Sales at PCX. Today I'll be announcing our 90 kW modular data center. And in a very open method, I'd like to share with you how we got here and how the community helped us get to this point and find the right application for the need in the community. Well, we're going to lose this right on time. Let me see if we can get the clicker. There we go. I was born in construction. My whole family was in construction, so I've had a very first-hand look from an early age of how inefficient it is and how the contract method is problematic for the purchaser of a new facility and ultimately the end user of technology. I've been in the critical power space for about 10 years, and with my experience in construction, 10 years of critical power, and my passion for technology, I knew there had to be a better way to do this. So I've been very fortunate to find myself with a modular electrical infrastructure company at a time when modular is more needed now than ever. We've explored this need for a modular data center under the tenets of the OCP. And efficiency is at the core of modular construction. Its aim is to eliminate the waste in material on site, the waste in movement just from people building things on site, and the efficiency in how it operates, basically by building almost exactly what you need and nothing more. Modular works very well for the application of scale, as being able to start at a minimum requirement and expand over time. Openness is a great platform, and it's something that I think modular construction's needed much more than the OCP is needed modular. We've definitely got a better shake out of the deal in participating in OCP. Modular is a very small sliver of all data center infrastructure. And working in silos in a very small fragment of the business, we have not been able to collaborate without a platform like this. So working in the modular data center subgroup within data center facilities, we've been able to share with other companies about Schneider Electric, Swedish Modules, and many more in their long experience with modular deployments. So we've worked together to really share our experiences and benefit from each other to come up with a new approach. And then lastly, impact. Our company operates on the value of impact and efficiency. If modular didn't provide that value, there'd be no reason for our existence, and we're acting as a disruptive technology. So where are we today? We started with the research within the modular data center subgroup in data center facilities. We polled 24 member companies. I think there were 2 polls that came out. We got a lot of responses back, and our aim was to find out what problem needs to be solved. We landed in finding that both hyperscale and edge deployments can find significant value in modular deployments. Our first approach with that is a 90 kW specification to basically set the level ground of where to build that, and a 300 kW scalable infrastructure specification. At this point, the specification has been approved by the IC committee, and for both the 90 kW and 300 kW, so the next evolution is to get product to match that specification. And so both Swedish Modules and PCX, the company I work for, are probably 3/4 through this third chevron here. At that, we are weeks away from formally presenting our product submission to the IC for approval. And at that point, it would earn the product recognition of OCP approved. And once that approval comes, each companies will operate independently on how they go to market. We're allowed, based on the OCP charters, that we can advertise using the OCP approved moniker, and that eventually we can join the OCP marketplace as a product provider, similar to a lot of the other ones here at the summit. So these are the background on how we came to the 90 kW and 300 kW specifications. We asked, where does the modular data center provide the most value? How many racks are you aiming to deploy on new sites? How many racks are you looking to expand on an existing site? And then what's the typical density per rack? So in the telco and colo and hyperscale, the standalone 90 kW fits with the 1 to 20 racks. We found a peak in the responses around the less than 20 racks, and then we found a big range above 20 racks. So we kind of aimed for the middle of the responses. Where can we capture the most demand? And then the typical density in the racks is 7 to 10 kW. That's usually the request. We're seeing operating kW much lower than that, but at least that's the capacity they're aiming for. And then we've also seen a request for portions to be capable of hitting the 25 kW. So at the end of last year, when I joined the Modular Data Center group, we were just getting started on the Modular Data Center specification. We took existing specifications from partner companies. We started to tear those down and make them more open. There were a lot of specifications tied to very specific manufacturer requirements. We opened that up so that all participating companies, we could accept a broader range of components in the system. It's available on the web right now. You can go there, you can borrow that specification, use it within your own companies, try and create a product to meet that specification. It's open, it's available. The next evolution was to get the product submission guidelines to match a data center, a modular data center. To this point, everything that's been submitted is very highly a product, be it a rack, be it a cooling solution. The modular data center kind of lives somewhere between a product and a facility, because you have to operate it, and the operators have specific requirements that can't necessarily all be solved with a single product. And depending on where you're deploying it, it may or may not meet the local requirements, either for temperature or regulatory requirements for distances between electrical equipment and so on. So we needed some flexibility, but we also wanted to keep with the intent of the OCP, and that we submit products that can be fairly evaluated, and that we're not hiding anything. It's fully open. If somebody wants to take our product submission and the design files and go build their own, please, you're welcome to. So that's the layout of the 90 kW modular data center. It's very similar across the board for an application for the specification. The details may change within, but it's intentionally very generic at this point. We want to maximize the adoption of it. We're using an in-row cooling solution. The deployment varies from 12 to 14 racks based on UPS or redundancy. The baseline is to have a central UPS system. The baseline is to be N+1 redundancy. There's with the cladding. And there's the layout. You have an isolated area. Feedback was, how do we make this look and feel as much like a traditional data center? And because our operators don't want to walk into an environment that they're not familiar with or can't be safe in. So the exits, this is based mostly on a American US deployment. So we have egress and National Electric Code that dictates the distances of this. You'll notice a fairly large hot aisle, which may not be necessary with 100% OCP gear. Right now we're pushing the limits and pioneering of what we can get away with all authorities having jurisdiction and inspectors. One thing that sets PCX aside and a few other companies is that our 25-year experience is, it's not just design files and drawings. We have the experience of building these, and we've done so for very long. So we have a lot of lessons learned. We like to call them investments, where we've fixed issues that we discovered as we built. So we're sharing those investments. We're sharing that knowledge and experience. As you can see, the environment within, containment, white walls, anti-static floor, and racks. I mean, it's smaller aisles, but it's still very familiar to someone who operates a data center. As I said, the specification is up to 90 kW with the layout and cooling we've paired with it. 12 to 14 racks with or without UPS. The density would be 7.5 to 6.4, limitation based on whether or not you're using 12 or 14 racks based on the electrical design and the cooling capacity. The maximum density we would see is about 12 kW per rack. I'll try and do my American conversions on distances here, but we're talking about a 45-foot by 12-foot, 3.3 meter, 13.7 meter designed enclosure. Again, as we're an American company and 90+% of our deployments are in North America, it's built on a 480 volt input voltage. In-row DX coolers. Based on other modular deployments from some of our partner companies, we're seeing a 1.5 to 1.54 PUE based on its deployment. This module is not intended to be scalable in itself. It's a standalone with its own power, its own cooling, and own compute. It's scalable in the sense that you could duplicate it, and you could put multiple modules on one site. This is the order process for a product like ours. As I said, we kind of modified the product submission guidelines. The marketplace order would be slightly different in that you may have specific requirements based on where it's located so that it can comply within the jurisdictions it's landing, comply with the heat load and environmental loads of the area, and then any optional equipment that the user would want to add or remove from the baseline design. The marketplace link would be available once it's approved and becomes a contributed product. We would, the signing company, in our case, that PCX, would respond to the quote with pricing and initial drawings. The customer would confirm the design, define the scope. We would provide a formal quote based on those discussions, and then we would start manufacturing. Modular works on the principle that at the same time, you would start site prep because we're operating in parallel paths. Equipment would be ordered, and then at the end of the manufacturing process at one of our facilities, we would have a factory acceptance testing so that we're removing more from the field as much as we can. Our company then would coordinate shipping and rigging and connection on site and commissioning. So get ready. It's coming very soon. We're very excited. As I said, we've gotten much more out of the OCP than we've bargained for. It's been very enlightening. We've gotten a lot done in a much shorter period of time than I anticipated. I welcome you to ask us questions about the module itself or the modular data center subgroup. If you're also a modular provider or a component provider that might have some advantage in the modular space, we're actively looking for participants. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Please.
What's the dimension of the box?
You're at about, actually I see I just did my European conversion. Oh, I skipped past it. There we go. 13.7 meters by about 3.3 meters. Length, about 45 feet. Height, about 9 feet, 3.6.
I may have seen it wrong, but I saw that you quoted PUE numbers for Dubai and Stockholm.
Yeah.
Which looked to me at a glance a bit of the same, which surprised me. Do I miss something?
No, the numbers were pulled from, and they're included, those numbers are in the specification. And they were numbers from a partner company that has deployments in those areas.
So this is not the actual PUE?
Correct. This is a typical design intention PUE.
Because to be honest, I find the 154 foot wide quite challenging.
Yeah,
And the other one maybe not challenging enough.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you. I think that that's a fair assessment. It would have to be looked at case by case, especially if you have changes in the amount of compute it's designed for. Is there a UPS? Is there not? So that would go along with the process of the actual design, and then take an evaluation at that point. Sure. Does anybody participate in the modular data center calls or facilities calls? They're open. You do not have to be an OCP member, so partners within your company do not have to be an OCP member. The recordings are on the Wikipedia page. Feel free to call in, join us. Thank you.
Thank you.